Thank you for joining the program. Today I have the Lieutenant Governor of New Mexico, John Sanchez, for the next half hour. So welcome to the show.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. I know you're a busy person there. Got a lot of stuff going on in the legislature. So how's things going? I know you came through. First of all, congratulations on your re-election there. So
thank you. Well, we appreciate that. You know, the governor and I, once we were re-elected and then sworn in, clearly transitioned back to governing again from the campaign, and we're cautiously optimistic that we're going to have some good things come out of this 60-day session.
There's a lot of stuff going on up there, and I know overall the economy is at the forefront of everything. We always talk about the economy. New Mexico and economy we always have that issue with the economy. Yes. It's been a state that's been lagging behind the last few years. Going back even 20 years, I know if we can, go back in time a little bit. We had a few years that were pretty decent, I think, for New Mexico, and then we came into this economic boom, and then the housing kind of took us down a little bit. Now I think we're starting to slowly come back up. Give us your opinion of what you feel where we're at economically. I know there's a lot of tension there as far as new laws coming in that we're trying to pass.
Well, I think you're right, Giovanna. The history of New Mexico is that we've been so reliant and dependent on federal dollars. 2 national labs, a large military presence in our state, and we've seen the benefits of that in the past, and even today it's a big part of our state. We want to continue to make sure that we protect our fair share of federal dollars. But the governor and I understand that we've got to be, more open-minded to diversifying our economy so that we're not relying and dependent not only on federal dollars. So when we have cutbacks or federal spending becomes a little bit tighter, it's affecting. I think that's really the biggest problem here in New Mexico. If you look at even currently now, the price of oil has dropped substantially, and with that, we're seeing just a drop in revenue.
So next year is going to go down quite a bit.
Well, it could be, yeah, absolutely. The projections are for much less. But here's the opposite to that. We've got to diversify our economy and make sure that we have a modern economy that's built on, first, good infrastructure. So the governor and I are really pushing hard for roads and highways. Any good economy needs a good, safe, modern highway system, and we're going to continue to make sure that New Mexico stays competitive with other states by having that infrastructure. The other is making sure that we have good, well-educated kids who are prepared for the jobs of tomorrow. And as we start to transform our economy, we're going to see more and more of those opportunities exist here in our state. But it goes back to the fundamentals of education, making sure that kids they learn how to read. That's one of the reasons why the governor and I are supporting an end to social promotion, which we think is really hurting our kids. Because if a child doesn't know how to read, there's no way that they're going to be prepared once they get out of high school or even finish high school and be prepared to take the jobs of the future.
Let me back up a little bit with you. You brought up the infrastructure thing. Infrastructure is desperately need and repair. Nationally, we're $1 trillion in deficit there, according to the Engineering Association. New Mexico, I know we already have a certain amount allotted every year. We have to, I think, I'm trying to think of the percentage there, we have to spend on public works projects. Do you think we need to increase at this point?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you look
we have no choice.
There's just no doubt about it. The challenge will be is what funding mechanism we use for that. There's a push to increase taxes in order to pay for it.
That was the next question. How do we raise the money for that?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things that we have to do is make sure that other sectors of our economy continue to thrive. And we're starting to see an increase in our construction spending. We're seeing other sectors of our economy outside of oil and gas and federal spending actually doing better. And with that, gross receipts are starting to come up a little bit. The devil's in the details when it comes to how do we fund highway projects. Again, I don't think the governor and I are supportive of a new gasoline tax, but we're going to look at ways in bonding capacity and others that would allow us to invest long-term into roads. Roads are going to give us a good return on that investment.
Additional gasoline tax, percentage-wise?
Well, no, we're not proposing an increase. There is a push in the legislature. There's several bills that have been introduced that would increase the gasoline tax, and we're not supportive of that. But we're going to have to work together to find how we raise that money. But roads is a big part of it. The governor and I, working bipartisan last session, were able to put together almost $90 million of money, which Democrats and Republicans came together and invested those, Giovanni, into water infrastructure, which is I think a good precedent.
Absolutely, yeah. Water, and then I'll get into that, I think, in the next segment. Hopefully we'll get into water rights and things like that. Infrastructure is an important thing. I think you're right. That would create some jobs there. I think additional jobs. You talk about diversifying the economy. Give us a little bit of that with the viewers watching. This is a Sunday morning talk show. They like to know exactly what you mean by that. I know there's a couple of things going on there as far as right to work and things like that. These are hot button topics. There's a lot of ideological differences there when you get into right to work. Talk a little bit about that. That way they get an idea what you feel personally.
Right. Well, I personally, you know, before I was lieutenant governor, I actually back in 2001 and 2, I was a state legislator, and I carried the right to work bill as a representative. And basically, it's not an anti-union bill. We think it really makes unions stronger and provides more accountability to their members. But it really, basically, in a nutshell to your viewers, right to work just simply gives people who are in a union the opportunity whether they have to join or to pay their dues. If you want to continue to pay your dues as a union member, nothing's preventing you from doing that. I think the bill should be more, it should be, instead of say right to work, it should be titled paycheck protection, because really we're protecting the paychecks of people who are working, whether they're private sector or public sector employees. We're just simply saying you're not forced to join the union and you're not forced to pay those union dues. And why is that important? Because, you know, about half of the states in the country that have right to work laws on the books, we see that they have a larger growth in their economy. You know, their gross receipts are increasing. Population, Giovanni, is actually increasing to those states that are right to work. If New Mexico is going to compete with other states, we think this is one of the elements that will help us become more competitive, thereby a more diverse economy.
The opponents of right to work would say that you're trying to eliminate the unions. That's a union busting kind of a agenda there behind the right to work. Right? We have a right to work according to our Constitution, so why would you say right to work unless there is something behind it?
But there really isn't. But it doesn't prevent anybody from joining a union, staying in a union. If they want to continue to pay their union dues, nothing prevents them from doing that. You know, we believe as Americans in our independent free will and choice when it comes to those decisions. And really, this basically just says you have the choice to do that.
We would be the 25th state if it were to pass. What do you feel it will pass? SB 75?
Well, I think it's going to pass out of the House of Representatives. The real challenge is going to be in the New Mexico State Senate, which the Democrats still have a majority. But I believe if the bill gets out of the committee process and gets onto the floor of the Senate for a vote before the entire Senate, who knows? We may have you know, a tie vote, a coalition of Republicans and some Democrats who may come together. Your viewers may not be aware that as a lieutenant governor, I am the president of the New Mexico State Senate, and we cast the deciding vote if there's ever a tie vote.
It passed one of the committees, correct? The House,
in the House, yes.
Economic and Education Committee, am I right?
That's right.
And it goes to the judiciary.
That's correct.
So you feel it will pass the judiciary?
I believe at the end of the day it's going to get out of judiciary and onto the floor of the House, and it will come out of the House of Representatives.
That'll be interesting to watch because everyone has their eyes on it. I mean, there's a lot of talk about right to work and all that. Let me take a short break. We'll come back. We'll try to continue right to work a little bit more. I want to touch, after that we'll go on to other things like education and
Good.
stuff. Okay? We'll take a short break. We'll be back with Lieutenant Governor John Sanchez. Thank you.